2 months ago, I received an invitation from a little-known KSP YouTuber to join his team for the Kerbal Space Contest at SpaceCon 2023 in Paris, a 24-hour straight undisclosed challenge with some serious prize money on the line for the winners. Without any hesitation, I was in, and Team Beardy Brits was off to France.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with L. It's loud!
After being welcomed by the beautiful Parisian weather and the calm, friendly rush hour drivers, we settled into our hotel before getting up bright and early for the first day.
Famous YouTuber Matt Lowe.
Can I, has anyone got a Sharpie? Can I just like change this better?
Naturally, as soon as we walked in, everyone hated us.
You standing where he stood.
And, well, who can really blame them? Not that we did anything to make ourselves even more insufferable.
So, you finally arrived. What the hell are you wearing?
It's my ass-kicking outfit!
Is the Brexit special?
We are Team Brexit.
Make the Kerbal Space Program great again.
I voted Remain.
I wasn't old enough to vote.
The first day was full of seriously interesting talks from different players in the space industry, including the president of the French space agency CNES, plus representatives from ESA and NASA. Someone from iSpace even offered me a job, which would have been awesome if they'd ever actually responded to my follow-up email. Day 2 was when things started to heat up though, as it marked the beginning of the Kerbal Space Contest. Teams of 2 would be competing to send a minimum of 10 tons of payload to Mars as efficiently as possible. And yes, I did say Mars. We were to use real solar system. At this point, there was a minor medical emergency as Matt had a full-blown panic attack, but I knew we had this in the bag. This very possibility was the reason Matt invited me. With my RSS experience, I would be truly invaluable, allowing us to... Oh, it's Kerbal scale real solar system. And we're still using stock parts. Alright Matt, I guess you can fly the mission. The catch was that with SpaceCon 2023's focus on sustainability, all of the parts had been recosted to reflect their environmental impact rather than their monetary value. This paradigm shift meant that fuel had become by far the most expensive part of any mission. The Nerva engine had also been priced so high that it made no sense to use it.
How are we feeling about the challenge, Matt?
I'm easy.
Piece of cake. Finish it in an hour and go have a nap.
10 tons to tuna.
With this in mind, Matt and I quickly reached the same conclusion for our mission profile. Firstly, we were going to go above and beyond the minimum goal of 10 tons to Mars. We were going to land a rover, a habitat, and a return vehicle to facilitate a crewed mission. With the cost of the mission and equivalent tons of CO2 released being the score the competition was judged by, we would use reusable rockets and mine most of the propellant we needed from the Moon and Mars. Our first challenge, though, was simply overcoming being in France.
They don't use QWERTY in France.
I've managed to update the firmware so it's in QWERTY. We're just gonna like...
We've been here like half an hour. Everyone else is already getting stuck
Everyone's
in.
already like made it to Geo.
After spending an hour taking apart the keyboard and setting up the computer with Australian English, we were free to get stuck in. We very quickly found that we have radically different approaches to designing craft, with Matt having had his nose to the grindstone churning out content on a set release schedule for years, while I'm a bit more of a perfectionist. We ended up bouncing off each other in a really productive way though, with Matt being able to slap together craft at lightning speed and me pointing out any features he'd forgotten, potential changes to improve our score, and even fixes for bugs in the editor that almost had Matt starting craft again from scratch. We ended up with a full suite of craft with a Falcon 9 replica to launch them that we could both be proud of. Most teams got stuck into launching within the first hour, but we didn't fly our first mission until 6 PM, 8 hours into our allotted time. But we had spent that time making sure every element of our mission profile would work. After taking a short break to watch Starship explode, all we had to do was launch our craft in rapid succession. First came our lunar space station, Galileo, which performed an orbital resource survey. We followed up on the results with Mogensen, a mobile mining base named after the current commander of the International Space Station that we landed on the Moon via Skycrane. I pestered Matt to land at Shackleton Crater, and after much complaining, we settled for a crater as near to the South Pole as possible whilst still having ore to mine. Next up was our fuel shuttle, which, after about half an hour of finagling, we managed to dock to Mogensen's robotic arm and take on a full load of propellant. We then flew our Mars transfer vehicle out to Galileo for its first of 2 refueling trips. At this point, we showed the judges our fuel shuttle's capability to land back at Mogensen and fuel up again, which meant they allowed us to fill it with fuel again without manually flying it every time. We showed we could do it, so they let us save some time, which was explicitly allowed within the rules of the contest. After returning the transfer vehicle to low Earth orbit with topped up fuel tanks, we assembled our 45 tons of Mars infrastructure. All that remained was to stop by Galileo one more time, then use the provided transfer window planner mod to launch everything onto a Mars intercept. At this point we had some well-earned pizza and assured our companions that they'd be able to sleep in just another hour. It ended up taking a little longer than that though. The first hiccup came when we arrived at Mars and promptly realised that our orbital survey satellite didn't have any solar panels. Matt had to take a short sabbatical at this point.
Matt, please put the whiskey down.
But we soon decided to press on and just hope that our landing site had automine. With the solar panel incident sapping what little energy he had left, Matt ignored my carefully prepared list of suitable landing sites in favour of deorbiting immediately and just seeing where the craft ended up. Safe to say, I think he picked the most mountainous region of the entire planet. A few destructive cliff landings later, and our 3 modules were landed about 30 kilometers apart. Our ascent vehicle thankfully found itself on enough ore to fill its propellant tanks over the 2 years it would be waiting for the crewed mission to arrive. It got a bit of a head start too, as it turned out the game had refilled its ore tank on launch without us realising, meaning we'd been lugging an extra 3 tons this entire time. That at least explained why our transfer vehicle was running on fumes. At this point, Matt really wanted to just expend the transfer vehicle and go to bed. Most of the teams that weren't already passed out in the auditorium were only just landing their first modules on the moon, and we'd already exceeded the challenge set out for us. But I knew that if we could get the transfer vehicle back to Earth, we would have proven our entire Mars supply route, which would allow us to teleport a payload straight to Mars orbit within the rules of the competition. All we would have to do is design and launch our crew vehicle, and we would have the numbers needed to demonstrate the sustainability benefit that building lunar infrastructure provides, in comparison to a direct Mars mission. This had been mentioned as a stretch goal of the competition, and I knew that if we managed it, we would have a serious chance of winning. I cracked my knuckles, opened the transfer window planner, and got the transfer vehicle back to Earth with a mere 75 meters per second of Delta V remaining. With his last vestiges of energy, aided by a copious number of energy drinks, Matt worked his video a week for 8 years straight magic and slapped together a crew vehicle with an artificial gravity module, docked it to the transfer vehicle, then landed on Mars in under an hour. It was 1:30 in the morning, and we had done it. Now we just had to make our entire presentation. I wasn't allowed to use a laptop to work on the presentation while Matt was flying the mission, as everything had to be done on the one computer to keep things fair. But I did sit with a pen and paper doing all the necessary maths, so we'd only have to slap the numbers into a presentation with some pictures showing how we did it. At this point, Matt had a second wind and actually wanted to get it done right there and then, but I think our companions genuinely would have murdered us if we made them watch us sit at a computer for a minute longer.
If we lose, it'll be because we're British, or the Brexit hats, you know, that would probably be deserved.
This isn't steps. Be careful, everyone. It's not just all steps.
I can see.
Okay, honestly, I don't. We're all very sleep deprived.
Hi.
We crashed into bed back at the hotel and got a precious 4 hours of sleep before gorging ourselves on croissants, drinking a gallon of coffee, and getting back to work for the final 2-hour sprint. Matt and I have both long since got into the habit of making countless named quick saves throughout a mission, so we were able to zoom through every phase and get appropriate screenshots to show the judges. With 5 minutes left on the clock, we had a 37-slide presentation finished. We only had 7 minutes to present it and hadn't been able to run through it a single time, but we weren't worried. After all, we're YouTubers. Presenting is in our blood. After an unduly stressful countdown, the challenge was over.
3, 2, 1. Thank you everybody for participating.
While there were some radically different and impressive approaches from the other teams, Matt and I quickly noticed that we'd gone completely overboard. We were the only team to send more than 10 tons to Mars, and one of only a handful that sent crew, though even then we were the only team that sent them home again. We went into this challenge knowing that with tens of thousands of hours in KSP between us, and me being an aerospace engineer with a master's degree in spacecraft engineering, we might be a little overqualified. But the audience's reaction to the amount we got done within the time was summed up pretty well by the first question we got asked.
How did you find the time to do all of that? Lots of muscle memory, particularly on Matt's part. Caffeine, yeah.
We were able to demonstrate that the infrastructure we'd built would pay for itself after only 5 missions to Mars. And as much as I'm sure it pained our French hosts, the first place title went to the lone British team.
Thank you very much everyone who organised it. It was definitely just a spirit as much as it was of skill, I think. But no, it was really fun. Thank you everyone for putting up with us.
I just want to say I can't imagine how much work's gone into organising this event behind the scenes, and you guys are doing really, really amazing work here.
and I think it's really inspiring to see. And yeah, here's to next year being 10 times bigger.
All in all, we had an incredible weekend, and as much as I've joked about it, the organisers truly went above and beyond accommodating us. They had to say everything a second time in English just for our benefit, and we had a really good laugh with the other competitors. I even got recognised by a fan of the channel, which was a first for me and felt pretty surreal. Shout out to you, dude. Thanks for the kind words. It really meant the world to me. Thank you so much to Matt for inviting me along, and a massive thanks to all the organisers at SpaceCon for putting on such an incredible event, and doing it all on a completely voluntary basis. Be sure to go follow their socials and keep an eye out for the next one. I'll certainly be there, but probably not as a competitor again.
Next time you only will have 6 hours.
A massive thank you to my patrons and donators for their generous support, and an extra special thank you to The Amazing Steak, Dakota Clark, Olaf Hammerhand, Madsaw, Peter Lushtinets, Simone67, Lady Lagsalot, Scott Milligan, Jesse Smith, NX74656, Jordan Millwood, Darth Malachor, Frosty Moon, and Luna Nicole the Fox.